exit meeting presented by Huel on Alabama and what they did in 2024. Now, if you've been dialed in at all to what we've been doing on this show, Huel, bringing you the hard count today, spelled Huel, global complete nutrition brand trusted by millions. Their Black Edition ready to drink is complete with a meal and a bottle, high in protein, low in sugar, packed with all the nutrients your body needs to perform at its best. Probably crucial for Alabama to get them some Huel here going into 2025. 15% off using code HARDCOUNT15 plus a free gift. So again, HARDCOUNT15, 50% off plus a free gift for new customers with that code. Huel.com, Huel.com. Start your year off strong. Unlock a healthier, easier way to eat with Huel. Nutritionally complete meals in minutes so you can focus on what really matters. So what really mattered for Alabama a year ago was trying to pick up the pieces from Nick Saban's retirement. And when Kalen DeBoer got that job, it did nothing to temper expectations because Kalen DeBoer a year ago is coming off a national title game appearance. And so if you're Alabama, you're sitting here saying, okay, yes, we lost Nick Saban. That's tough. There's no way to rebound from that necessarily, but this guy just took Washington to a national title game. Why should we lower our expectations? And expectations, for those of y'all that are not familiar at Alabama, is win the SEC, win national championships. So in some ways, I think people are sitting here today saying, well, Kalen DeBoer was just set up for failure because of those Alabama expectations. I'm like, if I'm a Bama fan, it's hard to blame y'all for having those expectations. It's hard to blame living in that world where you're watching Michael Penix Jr. go be a first-round draft pick, Rome Odunze to be a first-round draft pick, and all the success you had on offense and saying that dude is going to show up at Alabama with potentially a higher talent base. I mean, not Michael Penix Jr. walking around, but a higher overall base of talent and not going to have as much success. I don't see it. So the reality of what happened to Alabama, in my mind, is multifaceted. Kalen DeBoer has proven he's a really good football coach. I don't think that's up for debate. Kalen DeBoer, when he got to Bama, the ingredients he had, I don't think totally matched what he does best. Like Kalen DeBoer is this chef who makes incredible chicken wings. Roll with me here. Incredible chicken wings. Creme de la creme. National title caliber chicken wings even. Gets to Alabama, and there is this just elite level of USDA approved ribeye. And the ribeye is awesome, but Kalen DeBoer is like, I actually specialize in a different kind of cuisine. Doesn't mean Kalen DeBoer is not a good chef. Doesn't mean the ingredients at Alabama are bad. It just means, hey, ultimately, these pieces are not something I'm super familiar with working with. And we said it a couple times in the offseason, but I said it thinking that Jalen Milroe was going to have an incredible year at Alabama. But Jalen Milroe, when Kalen DeBoer got there, had averaged 20 attempts a game as a starter. Nothing wrong with that, except for the fact that Kalen DeBoer and his offense traditionally averages 40 attempts a game when it comes to throwing the football. So, again, I thought they'd be able to coach around that. I was way off of my assessment there. I had higher expectations for the offense. But when you look at what actually happened during the season, Alabama was a one-trick pony. If they could not start the car with Jalen Milroe's legs, car wasn't moving anywhere. And Ryan Williams, I don't know if you know, he's 17 years old, so just a little fun fact there. He was their best receiver. And there wasn't anybody on that offense outside of him that really scared you from a vertical presence. So you have one receiver who's a true freshman who should be a senior in high school. You got a quarterback who plays his best football when he's able to loosen up the defense a little bit with his legs. Feels like a pretty simplistic defensive game plan to minimize the offense. You go back and look at Jalen Milroe's rush totals across the season. There was all but one game with his lowest rush totals that correlated to a loss. Like I think the Tennessee game, something like 11 yards rushing or something crazy. It might have been less than that. Across the board, him not running the football was the death wish for Alabama. On the flip side, when he had a great day through or on the ground, it was because he had a phenomenal ability to push the ball deep as well. So I'll rephrase that. When he had a great day through the air, he also was able to use his legs to loosen up the defense. So even with Nick Saban being your head coach, there was going to be some new faces. The problem was the inexperience translated to inconsistency, and you didn't have that Nick Saban override button you could push. So the Alabama Nick Saban standard strike the fear of God into you kind of thing going on. That's not me telling you Kalen DeBoer is not still the right guy at Alabama, but I'm just saying the results that you saw last year, I think, were a direct correlation of him walking into a roster that he had to re-recruit. A lot of guys that left, he had 33% production return from that defense a year ago. Like they had a bunch of young bucks in that secondary, and you saw it at key moments kind of bite Alabama in the heels. So going back to inconsistency, like Alabama should never lose to Oklahoma. The Tennessee loss you can excuse. The Vandy loss optically is really bad, but like the Oklahoma loss is that one moment you point to if you're an Alabama fan and say, okay, Saban's really gone, huh? Like that doesn't happen with Nick Saban. And so I'm not trying to overplay this and say that Kalen DeBoer didn't have a hold of his team. I just think the whole thing was very clunky from the jump. I think the roster was clunky for DeBoer and what he does. I think the portal being open for them to only leave and not really to have a whole ton of talent to draw from post-spring was clunky. It's one of those things that I don't think we have a great gauge for Kalen DeBoer and what he is as a head coach at Alabama just yet. As a head coach, I think he's going to be great. I think he knows offensive football. I think they're going to eventually get back to having their kind of ingredients to work with in Tuscaloosa. Because our question going in was never, could Kalen DeBoer coach ball? Never. Never heard anybody say that. What was the big question? For myself included, can he recruit in the SEC at the level that Alabama has been accustomed to recruiting at, which has made them national champions multiple times under Saban? Right now, Alabama's got the number 2 class in America. Translation, Kalen DeBoer can recruit. So if he can recruit and you don't question at this point in time whether he can coach ball, the future at Bama should be relatively bright. Now, here's the tricky part about this. This is a fork in the road for Bama in 2025, optically. Because if you have another year where you miss the college football playoff, guess what people start saying? People being recruits. Hey, Bama's not really Bama anymore. Yeah, there's still the script A, same uniform, still playing Bryant-Denny Stadium, but the Bama that we grew up watching that would just take belt to behind against every SEC opponent and reel off SEC titles, that team is, it's a thing of the past. It's nice, but it's a thing of the past. But if you go make the college football playoff, if you go bounce back in a big way, and let's say it's Austin Mack or Ty Simpson playing quarterback and they put on a show, and this new Bama operation goes and wins the SEC or makes the college football playoff, I'd take either at this point. Then you say, okay, took a year, Bama's going to be okay. We feel better about DeBoer. We feel better about direction, all those things, and you keep this funnel of top talent heading to Tuscaloosa. You don't get a mulligan, though. You don't get a mulligan on your second year. I think you've already used your one mulligan in year one. And it wasn't bad, but it wasn't up to Bama standard. So to put a bow on this thing, I still believe in Kalen DeBoer. I'm not scared by the 9-4 season. The ReliaQuest Bowl sucked. Yeah, it did. A lot of opt-outs for Michigan. Ball up top. Give Kalen DeBoer his ingredients. Give him time to get his ingredients. And I think Bama is going to be okay. Now, will they win 5 national titles under DeBoer? That's asking a lot in modern college football. But I do think Bama will return to being a Tier 1 operation in the world of college football.